Hello, role players. This is Cross. What I'd like to talk to you about today is my Dungeons and Dragons 5th edition campaign. This is journal entry number 9. So we left off with a cliffhanger with the Lunar Wraith about to engage the party. As soon as this session starts, we roll initiative. This does a few things. It gives the party a chance to kind of discuss what's going on. It gives the players time. Okay, we're dealing with this thing. What's my battle plan? All week they're thinking about this. So let's discuss a little bit about how they got there. When Jonathan died, there was this question of, do we even need to go in here? Do we need to go into this cave? So there is a lot of different things the DMs will do to sort of push. I designed this cave. You need to go into this cave. Is that really necessary? Is that is a thing that you can do? However, in this moment, I stayed quiet because I let the story do the talking for me. What is my motivation for going in here? Well, I want to get paid. I want to get paid for these bandits, and we know that they're already dead. So, but we need their hands. We need some proof that they're dead, and for each one that we get, we'll get paid. So that motivation was already kind of lingering in their minds. That was set up prior to them ever coming here. The guards talking about, per bandit, you get paid. So that discussion came up amongst the players. I didn't have to get involved. I didn't have to have some ogre swinging through the trees, chasing them into the cave. They could have walked away at that very moment, but their curiosity of what killed these bandits and the fact that the bandits were dead, it was basically like screaming free money for them. I believe that these were the two things that really got them to go ahead and push in. Now, they were about to leave again once they fought the Will-O-Wisp, but once they found out that, hey, we can kill these pretty easily, even though they're resistant to our attacks, they still died. That kind of gave them the confidence boost that, okay, we might be able to survive this. This may not be above our pay grade. However, another thing, but if that's the case, then why didn't these bandits kill them? Why didn't if the Will-O-Wisp is what's killing them, why didn't the bandits just kill them? If we could kill them this easily, why couldn't they? And that was very true, because the Lunar Wraith is immune to non-magic weapons, and that's all the bandits had was non-magic weapons, so they couldn't actually damage it. They had no spellcasters and non-magic weapons. They were very ill-equipped for this fight, and that's what was going on. Initially, I had thought that the Lunar Wraith would be just sitting in this one room, and once the party stumbled in, that was what was going to engage the fight. However, in thinking about how I'm wanting to run this campaign, I realized she was actually done here. She had killed all the living. She had reaped all the souls and turned them. A Lunar Wraith will take a moment to rip out a soul of her victims and turn it into a Will-O-Wisp. That's where the Will-O-Wisps are coming from. So I thought about that for a moment and realized she's not just standing here. She's not a World of Warcraft raid boss. She's not just sitting there waiting for them to come to her. And that's been the theme of my campaigns for a long time now, is these things are not just waiting around for you. They have their own purposes. They have their own actions. And just like a party is not going to just sit still and wait for things to come to them, neither is this Lunar Wraith. So she started to leave the cavern and heard them and decided to cut them off at the pass. Now, I'm not sure if the player saw this, but there were 3 Will-O-Wisps coming up another tunnel, and then she was coming up the other side. Depending on which way they were going to go was going to determine what fight they initiated. Had they initiated the Will-O-Wisp fight, they would still have her to contend with. However, in defeating her, her control over the will-o-wisp faded, and the will-o-wisp just left. They were not interested in dealing with the party. They were very confused. They're still there, but not an immediate threat to the party. So the takeaway here is, when sending your party out on something, make sure your hook is strong enough to keep them invested, where if they come up with a reason, I don't really want to do this, that's okay. Let them not do this. Okay. Let them walk away. And know what's in there. Again, plan as if your players are not going to engage in this. What happens next? Well, the Lunar Wraith starts running around this forest, killing people. She becomes a bigger nuisance. She becomes stronger. Allow your NPCs to grow and develop. Now, this Lunar Wraith was fresh. She had recently been risen, so she had not fully acquired all her powers yet, or her strength. So the mechanics for her was the touch. So I modeled her off of the Wraith, the 48 touch Wraith. And instead of creating, I think it's specters or something like that, the Lunar Wraith creates will-o-wisp. The Lunar Wraith is inflicted with a madness. Hence, Luna created them lunacy. They have a lunacy, madness about them. So while they do have some sort of motivations, their motivations are twisted, and they kind of lose control of themselves to this madness. The respect that the players gave to the corpse translated into the final defeat of the Lunar Wraith. Killing her in combat is the first step, but actually honoring her and giving her the ability to rest is the other thing. Her body was taken care of, and that's part of what creates a Lunar Wraith, is the disrespect of the body. So the players were able to send her on using details such as the fact that a player went out of their way to dress her body to give her a proper send-off. That clothing now being put on this spirit, this apparition, allows the players to realize, okay, this is something different. It's the same girl, but something's different. She looks as if they had just finished dressing her for her send-off. So that kind of put the players' minds at ease. Okay, this is something different. I don't need to keep attacking her. And then her speaking, saying, I'm ready to go now. It's these little details that kind of help build the scene and break away the tension a little bit. We've been building the tension up with the combat. They see her fall and then reappear. It's not her again. It's the madness has been let go, and she's ready to move on. A few of her, another mechanic she had was, now she was inflicted with fairy fire, but she vanished to the ethereal realm. She didn't turn invisible. She vanished to another realm. And so while in that realm, though, she was still afflicted by fairy fire. And there was a point where the player's like, okay, these images are popping up. They're not afflicted by fairy fire. And I mentioned her, you're still concentrating on the spell. She kind of had the choice of remaining concentrating on the spell or not. The idea being, once she returned back from the ethereal realm, so instead of the two images, that one image would be the correct one, allowing them to differentiate between the three. But when the three popped up, they had no idea which one was the real one, because she dropped concentration on fairy fire. The images could cast spells. They could act as their own entity. I treated them kind of like a familiar in that sense, where she created duplicates. They had 1 hit point. They essentially worked like mirror image, except a mirror image that had kind of the clerics invoke duplicity, where they can she can kind of channel the spells through her. The idea was that they were very easy to get rid of if you had the tools to do so. Remember, they're immune to non-magic weapons. And this was the time where the damage of the creature, each one of the images basically dealing 48 now from this one Lunar Wraith, allowed them to basically, they were in some serious trouble of taking a lot of damage. She didn't roll very well. That happens. There was more in this cave. They thought they were done. They were ready to move on. I left a clue for the druid to basically say, there's something else in here. You can choose to investigate it or not. That's the again, the takeaway theme. This is your clue. You can choose to investigate or not. They did, and we encountered our first magic item. So I forget exactly what the item said. I come up with a lot of the stuff on the spot. I know what I want to do with this item, but a lot of text and dialogue and inscriptions and stuff, for whatever reason, I just don't plan. I think it's a good idea to plan it. It's just not something that I do. So when I say, okay, there's some text on this thing, it's because I realize in the storytelling, okay, here's this thing that I want you to do something specific with. Okay, but I haven't left you any clues to let you figure out what that is. So I've made a little error, and I'm like, okay, well, there's an inscription on it, and it had something to do with 3 days in dusk, 3 days in dawn. Okay, that was the clue. So I kind of created a little something on the spot to let her know that was what was important, and then they left the cave. So understand a little bit of that takeaway too. Leave your players enough clues. I would say a good running number is leaving them about 3 clues to get to a certain thing. If you're trying to point them to a location, don't just leave 1 clue and assume that that's going to get them there. They might not investigate that clue, or miss that clue, or not interpret that clue. Try to come up with 3 different ways for them to arrive at the same result. Or if the 1 clue doesn't give them enough information, they find the second clue, maybe the 2 clues together will point them to the right spot. And that kind of keeps them feeling like, okay, they are the ones figuring this stuff out, which in fact they are, because you're doing a good job of leaving them the right information and leaving them an understanding of your world enough that you don't have to sit there and basically tell them what they know. And that's something that I've been trying to avoid since day 1 of this campaign, but a lot longer. I'm trying to make sure the players understand what they need to understand in my world. I give them documents. I give them now when I say documents, I don't mean 200-page papers. I give them 1 page, 2 pages of information sometimes just a paragraph or 2 to help them understand my world better. And I give it to them in slow doses so that they can process this information. I did write a couple of short little books that were, page here, page here, page here. One of them being the Book of the Undead that Eris Key carries around. She shows it on the stream from time to time. That has basically CR 1/4 to CR half. No, CR 5. Sorry, CR 5 creatures in Volume 1. Because those are the beginning levels. Those are the Volume 1, basically. These are the initial creatures you need to deal with. And I think there's a warning in the book that basically if the creature isn't in this book, you need to run. If this is the level you're at. So there's a little bit of metagaming information in there that I have now made available to the character. So now it's no longer metagaming. If she needs to look up something, she can open this book in the game, in character, and look through it and physically check it out. And that helps her learn the world better. There's quotes from certain NPCs that are in the world that none of them have met yet, but they exist. And there's quotes in the book that kind of helps shape, maybe give her some RP clues of exactly what's going on. But yeah, that's the big, again, takeaways. Provide hooks for your players. Give them a reason to be there. And if they don't have a strong enough hook, guess what? They're going to talk about leaving. And honestly, it's okay. Try not to force them into anything they don't really want to do. Give them the freedom to leave. Okay. So as you leave, you begin heading back. Where are we going? Right? They could be, okay, I don't really like what's going on in this area. Let's go investigate another area. Okay, well, you start heading that way. Try to be a little bit more loose with your story. I've seen a lot of times I've just see this language from DMs. Okay, I've written the whole plot, but they don't really have to do that. Well, I've heard that a lot, and then I've seen a lot of DMs just, this is the plot we're running, and you get that from the Wizards of the Coast material as well. The books, the campaign books. This is the story that we're running. Your character needs to be invested in the story that we're running, which is fine. That's a good style of play for some. What I'm specifically focused on is homebrew and allowing players to come in with whatever character concept they have and try to give them that motivation to be part of this group, and then give them the motivation. I give a few player hints here and there, or I will type up a little paragraph of information saying, hey, you know this about something. We can deal with that. This piece of information, they might know this piece of information. Your two stories are kind of linked a little bit. Let's work with that. Let's work together as a group to kind of accomplish these goals. Want to work as a party? I advise players, you need to work together as you need to have a reason to want to join a group. You may be a loner type character, but as of this moment in your character's story, you might need a reason to join a group. The other thing I tell them is have a goal that can be completed in 3 or 4 different steps. So an example of that being, I have this thing that I want to have accomplished. The first step of that being this, the second step is this, the third step is this. And that allows you to, maybe in levels 1 through 5, that personal storyline is touched on. You complete the first part of that and it sends you to the second part. Well, there's nothing we can do about the second part right now. That's all the way over there. So the campaign keeps moving on, and eventually we revisit that character's personal story and do part 2. And so you're kind of bouncing between the characters all throughout this part, player 1, player 3, player 2, player 4, and visiting their characters' backstories and putting that character backstory in the spotlight for a short time. And that's what happened here. We started off with a little bit of Eris Key's first real encounter with the Lunar Wraith. This is her first big undead encounter. And then we turn right around and put the spotlight on Melindra. All of a sudden, something in this cave has something to do with her order. So now the spotlight shifted off of Varys Key and went into Melindra's storyline. And that was the session. The whole session was dealing with these two characters' player stories. And let your character backgrounds will write the story for you. I guess that's what I'm really trying to get at, is find out for your players, what type of campaign do you guys really like? Okay, why don't you guys tell me what kind of characters you're interested in making, and then once you have that information, then you can be like, okay, these storylines kind of intersect in an interesting way. It doesn't seem apparent right off the bat, but this player's having this problem, this player's having this problem. Well, I can kind of make a link saying those two problems are related. And now these two are going to meet. They're not going to know that their problems are related until they start talking, realizing, wait a second. I know this piece I didn't know that I knew this piece of information that would help you, but you're talking about this and I know about that. So anyway, that is a little bit more piece of advice. If you have any questions, feel free to leave a comment and I'll try to get to it as soon as I can. But for now, I've got to get to prep because, again, I'm recording on Saturday. We're playing in a few hours. And I would actually like to make another video, something that Varen, the player that's playing Varen, he was getting a little overwhelmed in picking spells for his wizard. And I gave him a little bit of advice that seemed to help him out a lot. So I would like to give you guys that advice as well. So I might try to make that video real quick. We'll see. If I'm wearing the same shirt, it's because I just made the video. But I could do like some other guys and go change real quick. But that would be, that's not really that necessary. I don't think. We'll see. Have a good day.